It's been almost 2 years since I first found out that I had a blood clot in my left leg. I guess since that time, I've generally been very well. I have not had a recurrence of a blood clot. I've been able to do all of the activities that I love to do, like rock climbing or surfing, and I'm no longer on blood thinners. So I'm very grateful for that, and I obviously hope that continues into the future. But there is one important thing to note since I've been off blood thinners and I was given the okay from the doctor to discontinue the medicine and to just have a normal life again. And that was that ever since then, every once in a while, I would have a strange sensation in my leg, almost as if it was like tightening, or the blood vessels in my leg felt like they were expanding or just under a different amount of pressure or something. It was a very strange sensation. And oftentimes, especially after I was driving for a while or sitting in my car for a while, I would get this feeling and I would look at the inside of my left knee, and I kind of would notice like a blood vessel that seemed to be a little bit bigger than normal. And that definitely gave me some worry. But I wasn't sure if that was just because I never really look at that part of my body, and if it was just something in my head or what, if it was normal or not. But I would have this sensation in my leg, and I would just get this idea that, maybe something's still wrong with my circulatory system, the blood vessels in my leg. And because of this, I went back to the doctor and I described that sensation to them. I told the doctor that I was a bit worried because, obviously I don't want the blood clot to come back. And that doctor, to be completely honest, he was a little bit dismissive. He said that it was most likely in my head, that I was fine, and that it was probably just caused from maybe excessive worrying about, a reoccurrence of a blood clot. That didn't make me feel good, obviously, because I feel like I'm somebody that doesn't really get themselves worked up about things very easily. I don't typically get extremely nervous or anxious about things, and I'm generally kind of a calm person. So I felt like it wasn't something that was just purely psychological, and that if I was feeling something physically, that it was because of a good reason. It was an actual physical problem. But they took my blood pressure, and I saw the doctor. They didn't really do any extensive tests or anything like that, but he said that I was fine and that there weren't any problems, and generally that I should just come back if I had another blood clot. To me, I was not really satisfied with that answer, because when I first had the blood clot, it seemed kind of like the window of opportunity between finding out that you have the clot and then making it to the doctor to get the diagnosis and get the medicine is a very narrow window. As I was doing research about blood clots and hearing stories from other people that had them, it sounded like a common story for people was that they would feel this sensation in their leg, and by the time they finally went to the doctor would tell them that had they come in just a little bit later, that things could have been seriously wrong. Or there are even horror stories of people that felt some sensation in their body and it was too late before they would make it to a doctor. And so this idea that I should only come back when I had another blood clot, or when I had too much pain in my leg to put any pressure or weight on it, seemed kind of irresponsible in a way. Because of that, I actually went to a separate doctor to kind of get a second opinion. And this was maybe a month after the first visit that I had to the first doctor. So I went to this new doctor, and they said the same thing. They said that, it's kind of a traumatic experience to have a blood clot and to be on blood thinners and to give yourself shots and stuff like that. And that because of all of that, it was more of a psychological thing that was happening. It was more of my anxiety or my nervousness about a future clot that was causing me to worry or to have these symptoms. And at that point, what do? It's two separate people that are telling you the same thing, that even though you feel like you're a little bit worried about some physical symptoms, that it's generally in your head, and that they are reassuring you that you're healthy, you're safe, and you don't have a clot and you're not going to die. So at that point, I took their word for it, but of course I just tried to pay attention to my body and just relax and make sure that I wasn't overly stressed about it or anything like that, which I don't think I was to begin with. And so it's been almost 2 years since then. And up until this day, if I'm sitting in my car for a long period of time, doing a lot of driving or something like that, I do kind of get a sense of like tightening in my legs that makes me feel like I need to get up and stretch and take a walk or something like that. I'm not really sure if perhaps the blood vessels in my legs are a little bit weaker now because of that first episode, or, if that's even a thing that can happen. But yeah, after I'm sitting in my car for a while, I definitely feel like I have the urge to stretch or to just make sure that there's a lot of circulation flowing through my legs. So it's something that is not very serious, and I haven't gone to the doctor for or anything like that since then, but it's definitely something that I am cognizant about. And so what have I been doing since then? Well, I would say that having this feeling in my leg, having gone through the clot and all of that stuff, I do a couple of things differently. If I'm sitting for long periods of time, I definitely make it a point to rotate my feet and my ankles a lot, to kind of stretch out in my chair and just get the blood flowing as much as possible to my legs, because I'm worried that being too stagnant can lead to another blood clot. Also, if I've been driving for long periods of time, it's really encouraged me to take walks. And that was something that I was never really interested in the past, like just going for a walk. But I guess because of the fear of getting another blood clot that's encouraged me to go out and do it, I've actually really come to enjoy it a lot. Nowadays, I will probably go on a walk maybe 5 times a week or something like that, just around a neighborhood or around a park. And, I love putting on my headphones and just listening to something that helps me just clear my mind and maybe focus on certain thoughts that I have in life. Yeah, it's just very therapeutic in a way. And maybe I wouldn't have discovered that, or maybe I wouldn't have tried that had it not been for a worry about a new blood clot forming. What else? Since then, I have traveled to Mexico, and in Mexico, there were a number of flights and buses that I took that were more than a couple of hours. That kind of gave me some pause, because oftentimes blood clots can form when we're on really long flights and we're just sitting for the entire time. Being in these forms of transportation now is kind of a new worry for me. I'm very cognizant about getting the aisle seat and being able to walk to the restroom, or just kind of taking a walk up and down the aisles of an airplane every once in a while. But also in Mexico, there were a couple of bus rides that were more than 4 hours, and that made me a little bit worried too. So what I did was I bought some baby aspirin, which supposedly helps to thin your blood a little bit. And it's oftentimes recommended to people that have had strange heart palpitations or other cardiovascular problems. And so I would take one before going on one of these long bus rides. And whether it was just a placebo effect or it was a real effect, it kind of put me at ease. And so up until today, that's kind of been where I'm at. Again, I haven't had any reoccurrence of a clot. I don't know how much of the sensations that I'm feeling are psychological or physical, but I've been healthy. I haven't had any episodes that made me decide to revisit the doctor after those first two times that I went. So I'm very grateful for that. Like I said, I can go and do the adventurous activities that I love to do and not have to worry about being on blood thinners. And I'm just a little bit more cognizant about being stagnant in my car or in a train or in an airplane. But going forward, I remember the time when I was on blood thinners and I couldn't do activities like rock climbing or surfing or snowboarding and things like that because I was too worried about getting injured, and then of course, having excess bleeding happening because you're on blood thinners. I remember during that time, I told myself that when I get off these blood thinners, I just want to go out and do the adventurous things that I've always wanted to do. And one of those things has always been to go surfing in Indonesia. Because if you don't know, if you're not a surfer, the surf in Indonesia is supposedly like the Disneyland of surfing, because it's very consistent. They're amazing waves. It's tropical. It's just like paradise for surfing. And so I remember telling myself that when I get off blood thinners, I'm going to make it a point to plan that trip, to go surfing in Indonesia, in Bali, and to do it relatively soon, because obviously it's kind of a dangerous sport, especially since a lot of the surfing out there is above like coral reef that can cut you or can really injure you if you fall incorrectly. If I do get hurt from surfing, it probably should be now, when my body is able to recuperate much faster than waiting much longer. So one of the things that I have planned in 2019 that I really want to accomplish is to take a surf trip in Bali, Indonesia, and to just have that amazing experience of being in paradise, surfing, enjoying an activity that I love, and just being in such a different environment, you know, doing something that gets me pumped up and gets the adrenaline going and makes me feel like I'm in a state of flow and pure enjoyment. So that's one outcome from the blood clot that I had. But again, other than that, I'm just so grateful that I'm no longer on blood thinners, that all of this was something that wasn't a super serious issue, that didn't have a lot of complications. It went relatively smoothly, and that I made it out okay. I don't know how close I was to being in a lot more danger, but it worked out in the end. And like I said, I'm just very grateful for that. Also, if you're watching any of my videos related to blood clots, and you are experiencing any symptoms yourself, please, I would recommend to not ask me in the comments what you should do or if you should see a doctor or anything like that. If you feel a little bit scared that you might have these symptoms or you might have a blood clot, bypass me completely, go to a doctor, ask them. Obviously, I'm not a doctor and I can't give you medical advice. So just be aware that, again, there are very scary stories of people that didn't go to the doctor soon enough and it led to either very serious complications or, in the worst case scenario, they didn't make it. Those are very real stories. So don't put yourself at risk by waiting for someone on YouTube to reply to you. Go to your doctor and protect yourself as much as possible. But with that being said, the reason why these videos about the blood clot are so important to me is because they've given me a slightly different perspective on life, a new sense of gratitude for life, and they also affect how I think I want to move forward in my own life. And just in general, they've kind of been a lesson about being grateful and what it means for me to thrive in my own life. Hopefully, it doesn't take a medical condition for you to find that out for yourself. But, you know, I think we're kind of all in this adventure together, trying to find meaning or to find a sense of fulfillment. So hopefully these stories about blood clots and blood thinners and not being able to do the things that you love until you're off medication or something like that can inspire us all to live more fully in the here and now.